Missouri just passed one of the nation's most restrictive abortion bills in the country.
Moments ago, lawmakers in Missouri's State House passed legislation that bars the procedure at 8 weeks of pregnancy. This after yesterday, the Missouri State Senate passed the bill.
The bill is going to only allow an abortion in medical emergencies with no exceptions for cases of rape or incest. Doctors would face between 5 and 15 years in prison for violating the ban. Women would not be prosecuted for having the abortion.
Joining us now is NBC's Kristen Dahlgren. Kristen, walk us through the next process. It goes to the governor. Is he expected to sign it?
Right, he is. It now goes to Governor Mike Parson, who has spoken out already in favor of this bill, saying it would make Missouri one of the strongest pro-life states in the country. So it's expected to pass. As you guys said, it just passed the House by a pretty wide margin, about 110 to 44 in Missouri's Republican-led House. So a lot of support in Missouri at least the legislative level for this very restrictive ban on abortion, something that we're seeing now across the country, guys.
At least 29 states, as you mentioned, across the country have introduced restrictive abortion bills, and that's this year. The goal seems to be for at least some of them to make it to the Supreme Court, so it can be a challenge to Roe v. Wade.
Right. Lawmakers in these states that have passed these so-called heartbeat bills so far admitting that while they are looking for the restrictions in their particular state, this really is also about a nationwide ban on abortion. This is a huge effort right now, a huge push to try to overturn Roe v. Wade. A lot of pro-life supporters thinking that this is the Supreme Court with the new appointees that is going to be the Supreme Court to do it. Now, I talked to some SCOTUS watchers, though, who say a lot of these restrictive bills likely are going to get overturned in the lower courts and then perhaps not make it or get sent back from the Supreme Court. So these may not be the ones that actually, in the end, offer this challenge to Roe v. Wade. They say it's really Chief Justice John Roberts to watch here that while he is pro-life, he also may not be willing at this point to overturn a decision, a landmark decision that has been in place at the Supreme Court for so long. So a lot of people watching these laws very, very closely, guys.
Kristen, thank you. Kristen Dahlgren for us on this story. Wow. Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.